The story begins with a woman named Marnie, who was in jail for the last 2 years. He was released for good behavior. Although his sentence was not completely pardoned, he will have to serve the rest of his sentence as a prisoner at home. A tracking device was also fitted on his leg, which would provide information to the police about his movements. She could not walk more than 100 steps into the house. If he tries to leave the house, the police will come to know about it. A police inspector named Shanks arrives to drop Marnie at her home. He keeps the key to the tracking device and tells Marnie that the police will always keep an eye on her. Marnie had murdered her husband, for which she was punished. There were still traces of his blood on the walls of his house. Marnie's husband was also a police officer and Shanks' partner. Shanks was very sorry for his friend's death. Marine said that the incident happened in self-defense, but Shanks does not believe what Marnie says. After Shanks leaves, Marnie starts cleaning the house. The first thing she did was to collect her husband's clothes and keep them in the basement, but the basement was more than 100 steps away. Since the tracking device never turned off and Marnie can't get it off her leg, she throws the bag away. The bag gets opened and all the stuff spills out into the basement. Next, she cleans the blood stains on the wall. She takes a bath, wears her clothes, and sleeps in her bed for several days. One day, sitting by the window, Marnie thinks that the old days will never come back. The society will never accept her, just because she killed her husband. Friends who used to come to his house earlier are now keeping distance from him and look at him with hatred. That same night, strange things start happening to Marnie. Sometimes the candles burn and extinguish with the wind, and sometimes he feels someone's voice in the house. When she goes and looks, she finds out that a man had been living in the basement of her house for the last 1 year. The man runs away scared of Marnie. The next morning, in broad daylight, nothing strange happens to Marnie. She spends the whole day well. She could not bring household items from outside, so she ordered kitchen items over the phone. A boy named Joey comes to deliver the goods, who says that he will give him the further goods. One night, when Marnie turns on the lighter to light a cigarette, she suddenly sees the horrified face of her husband. She falls down from the bed in fear and runs towards the door to go out. Then she remembers that she cannot go out of her house. If he did this, the police would arrest him for 10 years. Her husband, whose spirit was now in front of her, slowly starts moving towards her. He pulls Marnie's leg. Terrified, Marnie runs away and falls into the basement, unconscious. Sometime later, Shanks arrives, having learned Marnie's location from the tracking device. Upon regaining consciousness, Marnie finds Shanks in front of her, but does not tell him anything about what happened to him or how she got there. Even he himself could not believe what had happened to him. Then she sees the same blood marks on the wall which she had wiped off. Marnie can't sleep at night. She stays awake the whole night out of fear and convinces herself that there is nothing to be afraid of, that ghosts and spirits are nothing. From the next morning, paranormal incidents begin in his house. Now he started feeling that there was someone else in this house with him. He hears the sound of someone walking from the upper part of the house. When she goes to the kitchen to make coffee, she notices that the utensils on the shelf are shaking. Suddenly, utensils fall on her, but she saves herself. Now she is convinced that her husband's spirit is present in this house and is troubling her. Marnie bravely confronts this and says, "I'm not going anywhere from here. This is my home too." A few more days pass. Now the spirit of Marnie's husband started troubling her, even during the day. Shanks kept an eye on Marnie's house, but he did not know anything about what was happening inside his house. During this time, Joey had become a good friend of Marnie, who used to come to her house to deliver goods. One day Marnie tells him about her husband. She says, "In front of the world, he was very nice to me, but in private, he used to beat me under the influence of alcohol and used to torture me a lot, even complained to the police several times. But neither did anyone believe me, nor did the police find any evidence, because he used to beat me in such a way that there were no marks on my body." One night, when he was threatening her with a knife, Marnie stabbed him with the same knife to protect herself, killing him. After hearing everything, Joey says, "Whether someone believes you or not, I do," because Joey has started liking her. Now Marnie asks Joey for a lot of books to learn about ghosts and spirits. After reading those books, He learns that first of all he has to remove the things of that spirit from the house where that spirit lived. Then you will have to sprinkle holy water in the entire house and also ask that spirit to leave from here. Marnie thinks she can do everything, but she threw her husband's belongings in the basement. Now the challenge before her was that she had to go to the basement and bring back her husband's belongings within 3 minutes, because after 3 minutes the tracking device attached to her leg would start ringing. Marnie does the same. She goes to the basement and is quickly collecting all the things and bringing them upstairs when suddenly her husband's spirit pulls her leg and throws her away. But Marnie still brings the stuff up. Then, hearing a noise in her house, Shanks comes inside, who was always staying outside her house and keeping an eye on her. Shanks, seeing bruises on Marnie's face and bleeding nose, thinks that she may not have killed her husband, but that the murderer is someone else who is now trying to kill them too. He asks Marnie, "What's the truth? Tell me, I'll help you and not tell anyone." When Marnie tells him the truth that her husband's spirit is haunting her house and wants to kill her, Shanks says, "You're crazy. This could never happen." Marnie says, "I knew no one would believe me, so now whatever I do, I have to do it alone." Marnie picks up all of her husband's belongings and throws them in the garbage. When she starts throwing her wedding ring into the sink, the spirit of her husband grabs her hand and tries to kill her by throwing it into the gutter. But Marnie saves herself. Once again, she comes to her place. Looking at it, she thinks that there is still something left in this house that belonged to her husband. She started searching like crazy, but couldn't find anything. In this madness, she hits her head repeatedly on the ground. Then a tile on the floor gets dislocated. She is very surprised to see this. Now she slowly uproots half the tiles, beneath which she finds a bag full of money. Looking at him, she says, "Oh, so this stuff that belonged to my husband is still present in this house." Seeing the money, she wonders what she should do with it. After much thought, she decides to give the money to the church. She calls her father and gives him the money and also asks him to perform ritual magic on her house and drive away whatever is present there. But the father refuses to do so because he also realized that there is a powerful spirit ruling here, which he cannot control. Well, after they leave, Marnie does it herself and tells her husband's spirit to leave. But driving him away was not such an easy task. She harasses Marnie again, grabbing her hair and pulling her away and banging her head against a wall. Marnie asks the spirit, "What do you want?" The spirit writes "you" on the wall with her blood, meaning he wants Marnie. Her husband's soul had come to avenge his death. She also tries to run away from here, but her husband's spirit does not allow her to do so. He had closed all the windows and doors of the house, beats Marnie by taking all the furniture from the house. The house was completely destroyed. Marnie is also home alone and scared now, so she calls Joey to pass the time. After some time, he also becomes very excited and enthusiastic and comes to Marnie. They spend the whole night together. When morning came, Marnie was very happy, but her husband's soul was now angry. She catches him and throws him into the wall. The spirit hits him so hard that blood starts coming from his nose and mouth. That spirit also broke his hands and legs. He meets a very gruesome death. Then something is happening in front of Marnie's eyes, but she is unable to do anything because when she tries to save her, her husband's spirit throws her away as well. Now Joey's dead body was in front of her and her husband's soul too, which she was now able to see. Marnie's hands and legs start trembling and she gets very scared. First of all, she goes to the bathroom and cleans herself somehow. Then Shanks appears at the door because he saw Joey coming last night. He now asks Marnie to open the door. Marnie was very scared after seeing him and thinks, what should she do now? First, she hides Joey's corpse. She knew that Shanks would not believe her that Joey had been killed by her husband's spirit. She hides Joey's body under the tiles. Then she cleans the blood from the shirt and puts it inside as well. Then Shanks also comes inside. Marnie wants to get him out of there as quickly as possible by engaging him in conversation because Shanks was standing in the same ceiling in the room above, under the tiles where she had hidden the body. The dead body could fall on him from that ceiling at any time. That's when this happens. When Joey's body falls on Shanks, he now feels that Marnie killed Joey too, just like she had killed her husband. He now arrests him on this very matter. Marnie does not explain herself to Shanks because she also wanted to leave this house. Now as Shanks is carrying her, he sees Marnie's husband's spirit pick her up and throw her away. Shanks saw the spirit of Marnie's husband with his own eyes for the first time. When he tries to stop that spirit, he is unable to stand before its power. The spirit had set the entire house on fire. The spirit picks up Marnie and Shanks and throws them into the basement. Shanks had become unconscious due to his injury at home. Marnie tries to revive him but is unsuccessful. The fire had also spread in the house. The basement door also closes. Now Marnie first takes out the key from Shanks' pocket and opens her device, and then opens the handcuffs. Then she runs towards the ventilation, opens it and goes out. Then she goes back again and rescues Shanks and brings him out, but when she herself was leaving, her husband's spirit again catches her from behind. She wanted to kill him by burning him in fire. Then Marnie puts her wedding ring on his mouth and says, "It's over now. Now everything is over. Leave me behind." It was then that her husband's soul left her. She had disappeared forever, meaning the last thing was her ring. Shanks and Marnie had escaped. His house was burned to ashes. Now that Sam knows the truth, he tells Marnie, "Get out of here, get away. I'll take care of everything." Marnie does the same. She goes from there and leaves this town. Now he had to live with a new name and identity. The next day, the same news is published in the newspaper that Marnie's house caught fire and she also burned to death. Now Marnie was neither a police nor a case. She becomes free and starts her new life. With this, the story of this film also ends here.